Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 289 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, April 29th in the evening. From Gadgetan, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, we got Botticus.
Yo.
And from Undercity, Pennsylvania, we have Edelweiss.
Oh.
And listeners, we've got you. Thank you so much for being here in the Twitch chat and on the Patreon feed and wherever you're listening to this. We really appreciate you. We are supported directly by you. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/coinconcede. And also support us by leaving an iTunes review. Totally free, really helps other people find the show. And also, thank you so much for all the reviews. We're going to have another bonus episode we're planning for next week. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Bonus episodes tend to shift dates, but we're hoping for next Tuesday for the first week of May for our April bonus episode. And we're hoping for one at the end of May for our May bonus episode. Life and Ladder. Botticus, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Not playing a ton, but when I have played, it's been pretty successful. I think I told both Hat and Edelweiss I'm something like 20-0 with this Paladin list I've been playing, which is pretty solid. Because I think last week I said I got my 12-0, or maybe it was afterwards. I got the 12-0 achievement in standard ranked, and then had another quest to play Paladin, which I went 3-0 with that, and then did a coaching with Vic this week, and we won every single game in that coaching. So deck is pretty disgusting. It feels really good. And then played a bit of Wild as well. Tried some Nonsense Rogue and Boofree Mage, and listeners probably have no idea what that means, but it's just nonsense wild decks. Didn't have a lot of great success, but it was kind of fun to mess around in Wild while everybody else is trying to do broken stuff. That OTK Mage is kind of annoying for a lot of decks.
APM Mage? Yeah.
Mainly Reno decks.
Yeah, well, if you go from 30 to 0, then being at 30 does not help you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Wild's kind of in an interesting spot right now. The best deck in the format by most metrics is Hand Buff Paladin. And it's really interesting for the format to be defined by a board-based deck. Now, I say board-based deck. Sometimes you die to, like, Argent Horse Rider or Chillblade Champion that hit you for 10 damage or whatever. Like, you can take a bunch of filthy charge damage. But also, it is yet another deck that wants to just play a Crab Rider. And when the best deck in the format is all about playing a Crab Rider, it's actually a lot more healthy than I remember Wild being. And the APM Mage generally kind of struggles with that deck as well. And so there's a lot of cool stuff that's popping up around the idea that a hand buff-based Paladin is the best kind of thing to be doing. Because you can play the APM Mage, and it's very good and very flashy and popular. But there are a lot of other decks that are functional. In the Wild format, there's quite a bit of deck diversity. So I haven't spent a ton of time in it, but from what I've played, like, you can play Murloc Shaman if you want, and buff your board by +4/+4 for, like, no mana, because you have no Fin can stop us, and every Fin is awesome. And so just, like, pop them both out for 3 total mana, and then your opponent can, like, die and stuff.
Opponent dying generally pretty good.
Usually.
Yeah, and I would assume that anything that consistently plays, like, a lot of minions on board starting early is going to do well against the APM Mage, but the Reno decks I've been playing might get to play a minion a turn if I'm lucky. If the curve is good and I'm lucky, I get to play a minion every turn. But most of the time that doesn't get to happen.
Yeah. How about you, Edelweiss? What you been doing?
Well, let's see. I mean, my usual deck experimentation. So there was some Shaman in there. I tried out some various versions of Rush Warrior, including Rattlegore or not. I also tinkered around with adding Sourfang, and that actually felt kind of fine. because running a couple of Anchormen, and then you've got Samuro. Sometimes you get an extra Anchorman off of Athletic Studies, and even if you only pull back one minion, it's kind of decent since they're pretty chunky. For 7 mana, getting an Anchorman back and then having the Sour Fang is pretty good. And anytime you get 2 back was really nice. You can end up with kind of consecrating your opponent on that turn if you're bringing back Samuro, because Sour Fang does 1 damage to all other minions, and then Frenzy triggers. Or just bringing back a couple of rush minions and drawing some cards is nice. And I just like the idea of having, more minion density in the hand buff deck. So I think, the trade-off is that you can lose board early to like other rush decks doing the Playmaker Shield of Honor kind of stuff. So that's something to watch out for. You need to make sure you don't fall too far behind, but then you've just got all these mid-range minions, just like something big every turn. And I like that. But much like Bodicus, but on the non-secret side of Paladin, I've been playing, I just labeled it Good Paladin. I took it from winning qualifier lineup, has Cairn, which was kind of funny. And you just run all the buff cards. You've got, Conviction, Hand of Adal, Blessing of Kings, Blessing of Authority. So 8 buff cards. Get to run Cariel Roam to reduce those. And it's really just like play Crab Rider or Egg. Just like stick minions, stick stats. And the buffs generally get there. Yeah, on stream today we beat Dexter. I felt bad about that one because he was playing some unusual warrior.
He did that to himself. You don't have to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
he was playing a Dexter deck.
Yeah.
Indeed. Love Dexter, but I felt bad that we were not both playing silly decks for once. Yeah, right now, particularly with so many Paladins out, it feels to some extent like who can land the first Blessing of Authority. And that card is a lot of stats for one card.
It's about 16 stats, approximately.
Yeah. 16. Oh, right.
It's 8, but you do it twice. That's 2 8s is 16.
Yeah. So yeah, Paladins are really good, and the buffs are really good. So if you just, play sticky minions, so you always have a target, it feels solid all around.
Yeah. And the latest Vicious Syndicate list, we'll talk about this. Our Decksplanations this week is Paladin, because both Bodicus and Edelweiss have been doing well with them, even though it hurts Edelweiss's soul to play real decks. I saw your stream title today was Real Decks Feel Weird, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. And
it's only painful if you're losing. It's only that's when it gets real painful is when you start playing a real deck and you're losing with it and everybody else is winning with it. That feels painful.
Yeah.
But then I just ask Hat, what am I doing wrong here? And, we pick up from there.
I don't always have the best advice, but I've been playing...
Well, when it comes to Rogue.
When it comes to Rogue...
Is his advice play faster and go face more?
My advice is rarely play faster, even though people say, why do you play so fast? And I'm like, I don't know, I got some stuff to do. And Rogue is good right now, so, okay. I'm really digging this meta. I'm really digging it. Last week, I felt lost in this meta, and really, since the patch, I wasn't really sure what to do. Alright, Cap, you're calling me out, and I don't appreciate it. He's saying in chat, I feel like Hat's advice is either that goes face or those buffs are too small, and I've never really felt so seen as a person, but also that might qualify as a personal attack. So... The first, right after patch, I couldn't find a deck that either interested me or that I was doing well with, but the gameplay, as I've said a couple times, I really like the back and forth kind of gameplay in this meta and how there are swings, but they aren't game-ending, and that most of the clears are legendaries, and so on and so forth, and that board matters, but, it's not the only thing you can do. But it was hard to find footing, and, my rank was in free fall, and I couldn't figure out Rush Warrior, and I was, losing all of my THL matches. And I haven't played my THL match for this week, so we'll see if that continues. But I've been playing a ton, because I wanted to find something that clicked with me, and, well, first of all, to the surprise of everyone, a Rogue deck did click with me. You've both been playing Secret Paladin, or Paladin in general. How do you feel when you play against a Blackjack Stunner? Not a fan?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
I haven't played
hurts.
against it, but it doesn't hurt my deck nearly as much as it hurts Edelweiss's deck,
That
because
is
I don't
true.
play... I play a buff card that costs 1 mana and buffs multiple things, so Blackjack Stunner doesn't really do anything against that,
Yeah.
especially since it's a 1 mana fireball generally in my deck, instead of a 5 mana delayed Pyroblast, I guess.
Right, and Secret Paladin, when Secret Paladin is ahead, like, it's pretty hard to destabilize it, but Stunner really does a good job there. Ambush is really nice there. Hanar is still one of the most tilting cards to play against. Every time I stick a Hanar and it stays up for a turn, I think I have like a 75% chance for my opponent just concede within the next 2 turns. It is not a card they would print now, and I kind of wish that they had made it worse than they did so that it would not be in play, because I feel bad playing with it and against it. Not bad enough to stop doing it, because it wins games, but it's just really miserable play experience. But it's still good.
And
Also,
you're still guaranteed Paladin secrets after your Rogue secret, I assume?
yeah, and
And
you
the
just
Paladin secrets are way better than they
you
were?
just take whatever 1 mana secret is offered almost always, unless you need a Pack Tactics or Freezing Trap.
How does Oh My Yogg work with... I assume you still get the trigger, right? Because it counts as
so like if you
playing
Oh
the
My
card
Yogg
and
my
then it
secret?
converts. Yeah, and you have a Hanar in play. You still get to discover a secret, right?
I don't think you do.
So it has only happened to me once, and it turned into a different secret, so I have no idea.
I would
Oh My
assume
Yogg
it still
into a
works
different secret.
because what always seems to happen when my opponents play, like, oftentimes it's an arcane intellect and it turns into a mage secret. When it gets revealed as arcane intellect that got and then transforms. Does that make sense?
Spell transformation is weird. It shows you the original every time, no matter what happens, even
Right.
when the secret pops. I don't know how it works with Hanar, if it checks with when you play it or when it resolves. I don't know which side it checks.
Well,
So it's
I know
going-
that if
yeah.
you counterspell, they won't get the trigger.
Correct. So I don't know if Oh My Yogg is a weird card. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think I feel like you only got that continuation because it transformed into another secret.
Yes. My guess would be if it transforms away from a secret and doesn't become another secret, then you probably don't get the trigger. I do not know for sure, but that would be my guess. Either way, it's a good card. Octobot is really, really great. In Standard right now, people play against it very poorly. My general advice is that if you are playing against an Octobot early and you have the means to trigger it on your turn, do it immediately, because the rogue will get more cards in hand and they will cost less. Also, Sparkjoy Cheat, really good card. Like, there's just a lot of efficient value. Janus Barrow still good. And feels like Tenwu Alex is going to be something that people get pretty sick of. Because that's 24 damage. And 24 is a lot of damage from hand that isn't a spell. And I have killed many mages with secrets up that never pop because their face explodes because Alex is not something their secrets can interact with. But
Hanar does say after you play a secret.
Okay, so
I'm
it is after,
leaning
yeah.
toward Edelweiss being right.
Yep, because whenever is when you cast it, and then after is when it resolves. So yeah, okay, Edelweiss is definitely right then. I didn't realize it was an after, but that makes sense. And it's interesting, I actually think that timing is pretty important with the card Orgrimmancer, because there have been many times with the deck that I've been playing where I'll have a Hysteria or a Condemn, and I want to kill Orgrimmancer tokens, and so this spell works in my advantage as the person playing against the Orgrimmancer. Especially with Hysteria, there have been a few times where we'll play 3 spells and then Hysteria, so that the little 2/2s eat the Ogre. Yeah.
That's kind of goofy.
And you may notice the cards I referenced are priest cards. I have been
what are you doing, Matt?
really enjoying priest. So, you may remember we talked about P Priest with Light Shower Elemental. We have upgraded from P Priest to PP Priest, because we play Primordial Protector. PP. Get it? It starts. Do you get it, Botticus? You follow? I'm assuming you get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Edelweiss, do you get what I mean when I say PP?
Look, there's a reason I went to get water just then.
Okay, all right. So, the list that I've landed on, it's originally a Hockey Boys inspiration, as are many goofy deck lists, but like I have climbed like just under 1,000 ranks with this. I'm sitting outside top 500 at NA right now. Because you kind of feel like Druid sometimes. So, I tweeted the list, and it's in the show notes as well. But it's kind of a tempo-y priest with Wandmaker and Venomous Scorpid, Kazakis, no Xyrella, no Samuro, and then Flesh Giants and Primordial Protectors, which is the 8-mana 6/6 in core, that it draws the highest cost card in your deck and then gives you a minion equal to that cost. It draws Power Word Fortitude, which is the 8-mana give a minion +3/+5, and it costs 1 less for each spell in your hand. So a lot of the time you will summon something juicy and then play the buff immediately. And you have 4 really great targets to stick an Apotheosis on, and then gain 10-ish life. And on occasion, you will summon things like, I have played Primordial Protector. We played Double Insight, by the way, which if you look really closely is actually a prepaid Lightning Bloom, and you can get a 6-mana Primordial Protector. I have gotten Terrellian the Tenured to kill an Ogremancer. I have gotten Coilfang Warlord, and then Raise-Deaded it back. Gotten Tyrion Fordring. Alakir the Windlord, very good with Power Word Fortitude. There are some lower rolls, like Natalie Celine and 8/1, not great. There's some 5/5s, whatever. Arcane Devourer is a 4/8, which is a low roll unless you get to start the turn with it. Then you're fine, because your opponent dies. But it feels like a really proactive and powerful priest deck that also has really good removal. I've enjoyed playing it a lot. It's going to get me over 1k wins. I think I'm at like 960 right now. And I think wholeheartedly recommend that people give it a shot. I have beaten Lifesteal Demon Hunters and Spell Mages with this, and some other people I've given a list to have said like they're actually able to keep up with Control Warlock because it's a little bit more proactive. And I've won every Priest Mirror I've played because we just have more stuff. And Raised Deading with Kazakis is really powerful. There was a game I had against, I think it was against a rogue, where I played Kazakis and got the Oasis Surger Golem, the Rush and copy, which is obviously the best. And then I raised deaded the following turn, and I got back a Kazakis and a Golem. And then I played the other Oasis Surger Golem and traded it, and then my next raised dead got back 2 Golems. That's 4 Oasis Surgers that game with another Kazakis in hand. Like, it's so much proactive value. Really hard for them to get you off the board. Really hard for them to deny Apotheosis value. I keep ending games against Hunters and Paladins at 30 life. So, like, it's better than I expected. It's a lot more fun than I expected. And this is how you know that the fabric of the universe is splintering. Wicked Good and I both like this exact list, which I think has maybe never happened in history for more than a couple games at a time.
Well, yeah, that requires you liking a priest list. How often has that happened ever?
This feels like a druid with good removal. That's all it is.
So it was so promising when you proposed the hat, and then I immediately went 0-3 and was like, well, I can't play priest. And we swapped off.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
maybe we'll have to co-op it sometime. Maybe you have to show me the ways. But my experience was basically, so I need to heal in order for the lifesteal thing to actually make the giants cheaper. Okay, so we don't clear yet. And then I died.
Oh yeah, well so don't die. That's the first thing I'd recommend. And you won't get max value out of your Devouring Plague Surge. You don't need to play your giants for 0 mana. They can be 4 or 5 or whatever. You can heal your own face sometimes, and that works. You can renew your own face sometimes, and that works. And just get your giants to 4 or 5 mana, and it's okay. And that happens naturally over the course of the game. Sometimes you spike a Devouring Plague, but if you're keeping Devouring Plague Flesh Giant, you're just hoping for an Edwin draw, and that just really doesn't happen all that much. And so I think it's more like you play it as, you're cleaning up the board early, and then you just go for a bunch of juicy swing turns, or you just play Wandmaker Scorpid on 2 and 3. Scorpid's really good. Like, it's just a really good card. It always trades 1 for 1, and people have to go out of their way to kill it because they can't develop into it. So, I don't know. I've been enjoying it. It's been winning for me. I'm not going to say this is like a solved deck for the meta. I barely have any stats. I've been playing mostly on mobile. But also, like, I've won a lot more games than I've lost, and 2 days ago I was at rank like 1500, and I'm just outside top 500 now playing exclusively this deck. So, something to keep in mind. and I find it
Wow,
really
you're
fun.
saying there's a period of time where I was a higher rank than you had? Yes.
Yeah. If you played
been
more,
a
you would
while.
probably consistently be higher ranked than me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you agree.
I have to.
tank too much on weird lists.
I have to really click with the deck. Like, I'm definitely doing well with this Paladin deck, but it's not something that I feel like, oh, I have to play this.
It's not
It's
exciting
just
you
like,
because
I'm
it's
winning.
Secret Paladin.
I'm winning with it. I mean, it's definitely more exciting than a lot of the other decks I've been playing recently, probably because of the win rate, but it's nothing as exciting as Raza Priest. When I first played Raza Priest or Combo Priest, I'm saying a lot of Priest decks. Gotta think of a Rogue deck. Quest Rogue. That one, the original Quest Rogue. Yeah, it's just, it's a good deck. Winning a lot, feels good, but got a lot of other games I'm playing too, so
yeah,
it's hard to balance everything.
It's funny considering how much I dislike Priest. I still have 1,000 wins Priest, and I was like surprised when you were saying you're getting closer to it. I'm trying to think what Priest deck I was playing to make that happen. Maybe Raza Priest in Wild, but I really don't know.
I bet you played a lot of Primordial Drake Mind Blast Priest. Seems like the sort of deck you would
That's probably
like.
true.
Yeah.
How
Seems
long
like
have
the
you
sort of
had 1,000 wins Priest?
As soon as they announced 1,000 wins, I had every hero.
Okay.
Wait, you have all of them? Like all of them?
I have all of them. Yeah.
Oh.
No,
Demon
as
Hunter?
soon as they
You
released
have
it,
Demon
I
Hunter.
immediately had except Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter doesn't count because obviously late start. So Demon Hunter, of course, I'm slowly chugging along because I'm playing normally. I'm not actively trying to get 500 or 1,000 wins for Demon Hunter. So
How many
think
wins
it's
do
just
you have with Demon Hunter? I wonder who has
probably.
more.
Oh my god. No way it's you. I definitely have more than you.
Do you have Golden Demon Hunter?
I do not.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then I have the most. I think I'm at like 600.
I mean, it makes sense that you have the most, right? You actually played a bunch when it was insane.
Do you have
Yeah.
triple digit wins with Demon Hunter at least?
I believe so. Here, I'm
Oh
checking.
yeah, you
real
have
quick.
Boudica Speed. It's yeah, you're.
Hey, I
feel
got
like it's
I got a
probably
couple games in
300.
there. I was playing a little bit of Death Rattle Demon Hunter, played a little bit of Combo Demon Hunter when this meta started. But I don't think I'm probably still double digits because I had like I think I was close to single digits at at the time of this when this set came out.
You had a pretty significant aversion to it, and meanwhile, it was some of the best smorking I've had in a while.
I have 380 on Demon Hunter.
Okay, not far off.
Okay,
It's y'all missed out on some good quality smorking. I honestly think that Ash's Demon Hunter, regardless of the problems that it caused with the meta, which were significant, I think like the third iteration after we stopped running Fell Screamer Priestess, that version is still one of my favorite aggro decks in a long time, if not ever. Like it would be in my top 10 list, even though it was too good. Obviously, it was obviously too good.
So my two lowest are indicative of the classes I have tended to hate the most over Hearthstone's history. Excluding Demon Hunter, which has a late start, Priest at 1,426, and Druid at 1,476.
You've played a lot of Hearthstone. Those are your lowest?
Those are my lowest. Mage is my highest at 4,011.
Good lord.
4,000 games! Holy cow! I thought I played a lot of Hearthstone.
I
Holy
also thought
cow.
I played a lot of Hearthstone. Edelweiss, we salute you. That is extremely impressive and a little terrifying. Oh my goodness.
Holy cow, that's a lot of subs.
Warrior is my second highest
Maximus!
at 2,446.
Baximus, congratulations on first time legend. Thank you so much for the subs. You are the best.
Welcome, Baximus.
Yeah, I have a
Thank
point
you,
to say to
Baximus.
Baximus, but we're going to say thanks now. Thank you. If you all don't know, Baximus got his first time legend. Big props.
I have been playing since release.
Like computer
But
release or mobile release?
Computer release.
Okay.
And I mostly played Arena at the start, so I probably got a lot of class diversity then.
Oh, yeah. So your arena wins are now, they count now.
Oh, well, so they probably just got added on top of everything else.
Yeah. But you already had, if you had 1k wins on everything when they came out, arena wins didn't count then. So you just like Hearthstone. Okay, well that's good. You're in the right place. We talk about that here. Speaking of talking
Edelweiss
about...
only has a solid like 9 times as many wins on Demon Hunter as me. I'm sitting at a solid 41. Real solid 41 wins with Demon Hunter, just really getting in there.
That's more. She has more. Well, should we talk about like the giant patch they put out?
I
probably do that.
suppose, yeah.
Let's talk about the patch. Well, they are putting out. Correction.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so patch 20.2 slated to be released next week. This is the big Battlegrounds update, as well as a few other pretty interesting things. But to start off, the main headlining news is obviously the addition of Quillboars to Battlegrounds. It's going to be the eighth tribe, because they'll have 3.
Yeah. So right now it's 5 and 2 are out, so it'll be
right.
It'll be 5 and 3, which is 8. Yeah.
Right. So with the addition of Quillboars, they're adding 3 new heroes. I think in my opinion, the most powerful of which is going to be Death Speaker Blackthorn, which is has a hero power after you upgrade Bob's Tavern, gain 2 blood gems. Now you may ask, what the heck are blood gems? And what they are basically, if you've played any Mukla, they are bananas. So it's you can give a minion +1/+1. So basically, kind of the reason I'm thinking this is going to be most powerful is because traditionally, when there's been a hero that can get early game advantages by leveling quickly, then it tends to do quite well. And essentially, whenever you level, you get a free +2/+2 to put wherever you want. And that is very good, especially in the early turns. +2/+2 on a minion is very powerful. The other 2 heroes we have is Vol'jin, which has a 0 mana hero power where you choose 2 minions and get to swap their stats, which is really interesting. I'm very excited to play with this hero. It might not seem super powerful on the surface, but I think there's going to be some really wonky things you're going to be able to do with switching a lot, buffing up a lot of stats on something and getting to switch it to something with like a cleave or something like that. I'll be very interested to see if you're able to get something with that going. And then the last hero is Zyrella, which has a 2 mana hero power to choose a minion in the tavern and add it to your hand, set its stats to 2. So being able to buy minions for 2 gold instead of 3 gold every turn, very powerful. Could be more powerful than the first one, but since I haven't exactly played with this before, I'm gonna guess the blood gem one is more powerful. But
I mean, this is like targeted
heroes.
Yogg, right? Like it
Right.
varies based on what you're getting. You can get a Spawn of N'Zoth for 2 gold, and it's just the same. But also you can like later game. I think if you're dragons, I think a 2/2 Nadina is probably better than a 7/4 Nadina. Like I think it's actually an improvement. You can just scam a Tide Razor at some point if you want to in the mid game. It's just 2 gold to buy something, and if shrinking it is beneficial to you, or if you target a deadly spore, it's just 2 gold for a bigger spore. There are options.
I mean, most of the time, obviously, most of the time, what you're doing it is using this to buy buff minions that you play and then sell right away, and you just get to buy them at a discount, or buying minions that give you other minions in hand, like the elemental or the dragon that Murazond, and I don't remember what the elemental is, but basically it's just free.
Yeah. Celemental.
No,
and Tavern
not that
Tempest. One. Tavern Tempest,
Yeah.
And also on the 5 gold turn, you can just buy a minion that way.
Yep, exactly. So very powerful effect. I'll be excited to play with all 3 of these, honestly, because I think they're all really cool. Very excited to see how they go. But the big biggest announcement, I think, is obviously Quillbores. There's been 7? Is it 6 or 7 new Quillbores added to? Anyway, there's more Quillbores added. We're not going to go into each of them individually. We'll kind of talk about some early game, mid game, and late game ones. I think the 1-drops are not terribly exciting to talk about.
So the name of this card is exciting. I would like to talk about the name of this card.
Sun Bacon Relaxer.
So he's baking in the sun, but it's sun bacon. It's a pun. And also, the streamer 12 Wins, you may know him as Victor, changed his Twitch name to Sun Bacon Relaxer because he likes this name so much. Yes. So, Victor, props to you. And yeah, they added...
it's more than 7. I just can't count very
18.
well.
They added 18 new minions.
Oh yeah, that's
it's a whole...
Are they are 18, are they all Quillbores?
No. There are some that are Quillbore adjacent. But these are... Like, this is an expansion release for Battlegrounds, right? This is functionally an expansion release. It's going to feel really, really dramatically different. But yeah, the streamer formerly known as 12 Wins is now known as Sun Bacon Relaxer. And you get an idea of kind of where they're going with this. This is kind of like the Selemental of Quillbores, where you just sell it in, like, it's 2 gold for 2 blood gems. You look at a 3-star card like Bannerbore. At the end of your turn, play a blood gem on adjacent Quillbore. And the way they have the play thing working with Quillbore specifically, it's not like you apply the bonus. It simulates as though you had 2 blood gems in your hand and you played them. So any on-play effects that trigger on player action do trigger with Bannerbore, which is kind of a big deal.
So like with Bristleback Brute, the first blood gem played on each turn gets an extra +3/+3. That's a lot of stats, by the way.
And that's permanent.
That would still apply to Bannerbore.
To one of them, yes. And it is also a permanent buff. So
well, it's only one.
Right.
At the end of turn, play a blood gem on an adjacent Quillbore. You don't.
Yeah, but I mean, like for Bristleback Brute, the first blood gem played in this each turn gives an extra +3/+3. It's a permanent +4/+4 total.
Right.
Yeah.
And does it count? Does that? I wonder if that counts for Necrolite, which choose a friendly minion and steal all blood gems from its neighbors. Is the +3/+3 considered part of that blood gem, or is it considered part of? Okay, so it would steal the full +3/+3. It wouldn't steal like 1/1 and then leave the rest.
Basically, what it does is, you know, the banner under the minion. Anything there that says blood gem just zoops over. So yeah, it will transfer that buff directly. And then you look at, they actually have some really interesting 5-star minions as well. The one that I wanted to call it, there are a few that, like, your blood gems get bigger, like the boar, which is named Agamagan, the Great Boar. Agamagan, that's just a fun name. And
just Agam.
Yeah.
Wait. I might be looking at the wrong one.
Agam Thorncurse, the one we're talking about, but
there's Agam and Agamagam.
Yes.
Sure.
But yeah, so Agam Thorncurse is the 5-mana 3/6 or 5-star 3/6. After a blood gem is played on this, give a friendly minion of each minion type +1/+1. This is Light Fang but with blood gems, and you kind of control how it works based on how many blood gems you have. So I like that it's not just, hey, get a bunch of Quillbores and buff them. You can actually play this as another Light Fang. And there are a bunch of interesting minions here. It's going to be really hard to see how these will play. This is one of the more creative tribes they've released, if not the most.
I mean, I'm looking at Charlga.
That's an L.
That one seems nuts, which you just at end of turn play blood gem on all friendly minions, so you just essentially give the pirate, what is the 6-drop pirate that buffs +2/+1?
Oh, Eliza.
I always mix up Eliza.
And Elistra.
But it's essentially like a permanent Eliza every turn to your board. That's gonna be super nuts, I think.
Though Eliza triggers a lot of times. Eliza triggers multiple times per combat, but yes, Charlga, who Jay Correct in the chat has counseled us and said we are calling him Charles, which I think is much better. Yeah, Charles just seems like a nice permanent board buff. But think about, I mean, compared to Caligos or compared to Eliza triggering multiple times, like, I think it's probably on par with that or a little weaker. I don't know.
It's definitely weaker. It's definitely weaker than a Caligos, except for the first turn you play it. I find Charlga kind of in between a Caligos. It feels very Eliza-esque in the sense that generally when you get the first Eliza, it's kind of random if you have another pirate or not, and a lot of times you'll just take an Eliza just to have a board buff for the turn, and then you start getting pirates afterwards, whereas Charlga is kind of the same, where you get that buff for the turn, and then you can keep it in play for a bit as it's kind of light fanging, in a sense. It's kind of light fanging your board, but you can get rid of it. You don't feel too bad about getting rid of something like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, blood gems seem very weird. I like the idea that blood gems can kind of don't have to be a Quillbore specific thing. It's going to work with all minion types, which I like a lot. But also the synergies between it seem good. So I'm really excited to play with these, honestly. I'm excited to see how they fit in. Some of the cards look very powerful, but it's also somewhat dependent on how well you can get blood gems, because it's one of those where it kind of feeds on itself in that you want Quillbores so that you're getting blood gems, but if you're not going strictly Quillbores, then are you still going to be holding blood gems? Say you get like a couple in a turn so that you can kind of keep some of these once per turn effects going, or are you going to do something else? There's just a lot of, I think, powerful cards in here, so we'll see how it ends up playing out. Excited about the new heroes, excited about Quillbores, and in addition to that, they're adding Quillbores elsewhere, so not only are they going to be in just Battlegrounds, they are not going to currently work on any synergies for them in something like Standard or basically in the actual game of Hearthstone, but they are going to add the tags to cards that make sense to have the tags. So looks like 7 cards from Forged in the Barrens got are going to be receiving the Quillbore tag, as well as 6 cards from past expansions are also going to have Quillbore tags, as well as some adventures. So Quillbores will be in the game, but not really have any interactable things currently. I'm sure they might get added eventually if Quillbores end up being a reoccurring thing in the game. I wonder if this is the smallest Tribor's Totems is.
It's probably the smallest, but
or Treants.
But that's not a tribe. It's like that's not. It's a name.
They have the tag though, right?
No.
No, Treants don't have the tag.
Nope.
Okay. Interesting. But that's the largest part of largest section.
And just a final note on BGs here: they are also planning on nudging MMR, internal and external rating. They're doing some funky data stuff. I linked a tweet to Tian Ding, who's the data scientist. But also, just an important note, rating floors are theoretically coming back, along with some anti-cheating tools to make sure that they aren't exploited by conceding a bunch of times at the floor and then cranking all the way back up, which is what happened last time. So there's kind of a renormalization happening. There were some really high-level players that were losing points for third place in lobbies just because they were way outside the range of where everybody else was. So they're trying to fix that and nudge that. And then I don't know what their long-term plans are for MMR adjustments, but it seems like something that they are aware there is a need for. I'm curious to talk to actual high-level players about what they think about this, because I don't think any of us are in the like 12K range or whatever. I'm certainly not.
I barely play.
Yeah.
I've been hard stuck at 9,500 for a long time.
Yeah.
Can't seem to grow past it, but with the reset, maybe I'll enjoy Quill Borers a lot and make a push. I'm hoping that'll happen because I did like playing BGs, but I just never really felt like I got a firm grasp on this meta.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's just the battleground section.
But we do have a short little Duels update. So there's been some tech added. I'm assuming this is behind the scenes, essentially, that makes it so you'll more regularly be offered treasures that synergize better with the cards in your deck. So, yeah. So you're not going to, or more often you're going to feel like your deck is coming together, and you're not just offered random cards or things to go in your deck when the buckets are kind of having you go in a specific direction. The treasures should try to follow you in some sense. As well as Nosdormu, the Eternal has been unbanned. So Nosdormu players, rejoice. We got about 2 more weeks before Nosdormu Day again. And then the Paladin signature treasure Humble Blessings got moved up from 3 mana to 4 mana. That's the one that says change the attack and health and cost of all minions to 3 for the rest of the game. All your minions, not all minions.
It was too good, by the way.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Because you played this card like Alexstrasza, and then your opponent would go to 15 because it cost 3, and then you would kill them. It was good. Yep. I'm glad they nerfed
5
it.
definitely felt too slow, but yeah, this is definitely a bit of overcompensating, and then it becomes a super Kalaseth card.
I'm glad they nerfed it. Yeah, and that's Duels. And they did. Then they did some weird stuff. There's so much weird stuff here.
Dean, I believe it was Dean, had mentioned on Twitter that there were going to be some more diamond cards added to the game, and wanted to know what everybody's opinions are on what cards should be made into a diamond card. And this one was probably already in the works, and it looks pretty awesome, not going to lie. It's Diamond Ragnaros has been added to the tavern, so you can acquire Diamond Ragnaros by acquiring the classic legendary collector. So if you have all of the classic legendaries in your collection, you will get a Diamond Ragnaros, which looks pretty sick.
So you have to own the beast. You have to own Lore Master
Nat Pagle.
Millhouse Manastorm.
Millhouse Manastorm.
Hey, Cho is fine. Pagle's worse than Cho.
I'm not really excited about either, if I'm being honest with you.
So, I guess I'll be able to get this right away.
Do you have a full classic set?
I do, and I don't like disenchanting things.
Okay. Well,
or at least I did. So I think I would get it immediately.
Do you have a High Inquisitor white main?
That's a good question.
Or a Natalie Celine?
That came out later, doesn't it?
It did. Do you own a Brightwing?
Yeah, I guess they added a bunch of stuff, I'm pretty sure at one point I got that achievement, Classic Legendary Collector.
Yep. Well, if you reclaim the achievement, then you should get this thing. But yeah, I mean, check and see. Also, while we're here, how do we all feel about diamond cards? And by diamond cards, I mean just Samura, because who plays Brukan? How do we feel about them after having them in the game for like a month-ish?
Samuro grew on me a little bit when I played it. I'm still not gonna be I'm not gonna be actively chasing getting a Diamond Ragnaros. I might have it already. I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I think it's cool. I think if people are excited about stuff like this, then great. And this one definitely looks cool. I want to see the animation, because already the Ragnaros animation was sweet. I can't imagine what the Diamond animation is going to be. It has to be next level, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks like what I'm missing is Elite Tauren Chieftain and Gelbin Mechatork, which I think means I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, those are promos. I don't believe they're considered classic.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I don't know 100%. But you couldn't have... Those were never openable in packs, so I think they weren't classic. Yeah. Yeah, those have to be something extra. Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoy Diamond Samuro, and I also wasn't sure how I felt about it at first, but now, like, anytime I play him, it's, of course, I'm playing the Diamond version, even if I had another one. And the extended art on Ragnaros looks pretty cool here. I'd like to see him pop out of the frame. It's not something that I, like, go out of my way for, but it's something that I thought I was going to think was ugly, and now I think, like, hey, that's kind of cool. But I don't play Classic very much, and I'm not going to craft the Beast for this.
It's kind of interesting. I honestly think that the printed versions, just like on websites and stuff, do a significant disservice to how it looks in-game. I think in-game it looks significantly better, whereas like this one I'm looking at on the webpage just honestly doesn't look that exciting. It just like, I don't know, it doesn't seem... I just know it's going to look way better in-game, so...
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the first time I see this in game, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to do what I have to do to get this in my collection. Would not be surprised if that happens.
Shall I show you when it comes out, and then you can decide?
Clip it, yeah. I want to stream it, clip it, whatever. Yeah, I want to know.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure that someone will have it out there. And more cosmetics.
This next section, oh man. The Tavern, so they've added a new progression achievement called the Tavern Regular, which tracks total reward track levels earned on your account across all reward tracks from each expansion. If you complete each tier of this achievement, you will be rewarded with a choice of 1 to 10 new hero skins featuring upgraded armor. I hope that you guys think that this looks sweet, because these armors look so good to me. Oh man, I obviously want this Valeera hero portrait a lot, but I don't know, they look super cool, but I know you both weren't super excited with the cartoony look from the last one or whatever it was.
So, but this is like WoW relevant, and you know more about WoW than we do, but the last set was tier 1 armor, right? And this is tier 2 armor? Like in WoW armor sets? I'm pretty sure that's what these are.
Actually, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
They're doing they're doing tier sets, right? And so the first one was tier 1 armor, and this is the tier 2 stuff. I love that tie into the history. Like, I really, really like that. Yeah, like the Hunter, this is the Dragonstalker armor for the Hunter, which looks awesome. That Hunter armor looks really good. I'm probably going to get that one.
Anduin looks kind of like a mech.
I
think it's just the glowing eyes.
No, he looks like he's going Super Saiyan.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at... I can't take my eyes from the bottom left corner, which is both Thrall and Valeera. Both of them look really good. I think all of them look really good.
Valeera looks sweet. I wasn't a fan of the last round in terms of mage, but giving Jaina a sword, I'm on board for. So, at least that's what it looks like. Maybe it's a staff.
So, Rujin in chat says that Valeera actually got tier 5 because their tier 2 armor was from the Book of Hero Skin. So this is actually Valeera's Burning Crusade set, which is tier 5, which is also really, really cool. Yeah. These are fun. And so 200 total levels, that includes all the bonus levels from the last one. And remember that the base achievement for each Tavern Pass, the base levels are 100 now. So the goal is basically every other expansion, if you just finish the Tavern Pass and get no bonus levels, you get one of these. And then if you grind out extra levels, you should get probably one of these per expansion or so, if you play a bunch. And I think it's just a nice free bonus skin, and you don't have to do anything for this other than it's free. This is totally free.
Are you capped out at 1 per expansion, I assume? Or is it just every 200 levels you get one?
The tweet from Celestalon, because it's tracking across expansions, Celestalon said it's every 200 levels total.
Oh man, I'm probably gonna start playing a lot more Hearthstone.
Good. We did it. We did it.
All
Reddit.
of these look so cool, honestly.
We did it.
I mean, I don't think I was grinding out nearly as much as some people who were hitting like 300, 400 on last
Well, they
for
weren't hitting
Warcraft.
400 because it capped at 350.
Okay, all right. Maybe not 400, but sorry, what looked like high, 200 or 300s.
Anyone that capped last expansion, I have no idea how they played that much. But there were a
Yeah.
bunch of people that capped. So, yeah, these are rad. And they're doing something, so that's for the super tenured players, but they're also doing something for newer players, which I think is the most important thing they've announced this patch.
I think
Yeah,
so as
and
well.
we had glimpses of this before. We got a hint about these coming to the shop at some point, and they're finally here. They're labeling them as Battle-Ready decks. For the first time ever, starting on May 4th, you will be able to spend $20 and get a full ready-to-play ladder deck. And these decks are no joke. These are every single one of these decks. There's a link to them. Is a legitimate deck that you can just take straight to ladder and probably do fine with. It's kind of unheard of, honestly. That you no longer have to do the new player experience thing and choose one deck, and if you don't end up clicking with it, then you're just kind of have to either make a new account and do it over again or do something funky. You can just now spend $20 and get a very powerful deck of your choice. Or if you finish the new player experience, play a deck for a while, enjoy it, but want to try something else, you just have access to this. And yeah, I mean, all of these decks are quite solid. I believe Hat described them as 2-week-old HS replay decks, essentially.
Basically. Yeah. They're not really all that far off from legitimate meta decks. Some of them include awkward legendaries. The Secret Paladin includes Smith, Cannonmaster Smith, because it needs to be more expensive. The Hunter includes Ace Hunter Kreen, because it needs to be more expensive. They didn't include a deck like Spellmage, because you can't really make that deck more expensive unless you add Deck of Lunacy, which I don't think they want to give to new players or have in the game at all. So they highlighted decks that have roughly equal value. But if you're buying these just for dust, don't do it. You are not the target market, and that's not the intention. The intention here is to get a deck or a bunch of cards for a class you normally don't play. And you think about all the AMA answers they've had and all the talking they've done, it's very clear that there is a really big sticking point for players that aren't as engaged in external stuff like we are, with podcasts and websites and reports and whatever. If you just want to have some guidance as to what to play without going to third-party websites, this is that, and it is clearly a pain point for newer players that they need something in the clients to tell them what to do. And $20 for research into what deck is legitimately reasonable to play, and you get all the cards. Pretty good deal, and newer players just have such a lower boundary in understanding what is good.
I think the one kind of complaint I have about it is that it's only going to be, like 3 weeks that these are available?
This is clearly a test, yeah. It was originally 2 weeks, they extended it to 3 weeks. I imagine they will probably extend it again if it's popular, because these should always be available except for right after or right before an expansion launches. You need data to make good decks, and then you don't want to sell a deck and then a week later a new set comes out and ruins them. But also, 3 weeks probably means the mini set comes out shortly after that.
Ooh, that's a good point.
So they might do this again in the middle of the mini set.
Maybe. Yeah, I suppose it depends how often they're going to be made available.
Yeah.
But I would think you want these in the client more often than not, so that people who are just getting into the game, you recommend it to a friend, which I think is going to start happening more, that friend can go immediately buy a deck with the class that kind of clicks with them. And hidden in the FAQ, but I think a big part of this, it immediately jumps your level to 10 for all your classes, which means you get access to all the core set cards. That saves a ton of time.
That's so important for alt accounts and for other regions and servers. Schwal was talking about this yesterday when this was announced, and basically said this is $20 to save about 10 hours. And that's huge. And that's if you're like dedicated grinding each class. Otherwise, you just buy a deck, and the new player experience in particular is going to be so much better and so much more diverse. We heard about it a lot when Ashes came out. The new player experience was all Demon Hunter because it's a free deck that they give you right away. You can get a lot of cards off the rewards track if you know what you're doing and just build a deck for free completely, but you have to know what you're doing already. And if you don't, the new player ranks are not filled with arena decks. We're not dealing with Chillwind Yeti anymore as something that new players do. So if people are looking to invest, instead of buying packs and not knowing what to do with the cards or having to deal with external websites, just buy one of these decks, and this is probably going to be the meta in the new player ranks now. And then after they finish the new player ranks, they get another free deck. I don't know.
Man, do you remember? I assume both of you have at one point tried to introduce somebody to the game of Hearthstone and get them playing. You remember what that was like when they get their free to play or their opening packs, and you buy a couple, maybe you buy $20 worth of packs for them, and then you try to piece together. You look through and try to piece together some deck that you can probably win with, but somebody who's brand new is going to really struggle to win with because they're going to play against other players that have more cards than them, have access to, better deck lists or whatever, and they're trying to learn. And now you can literally just spend $20 or have your friend or whoever spend $20, get this deck, and start trying to give them tips on, okay, so now this is how games are going to look. Like when you have a full collection, games are going to look like this, and we can start teaching you the basics instead of literally trying to teach you that, well, your cards are just going to be strictly worse because you're playing with Chillwind Yetis, and you have to play infinitely better than your opponent, which you can't do because you've never played the game before, in order to win games. And I don't know, this is just like, it's going to revolutionize the ability for new players to get into the game, honestly.
I've previously only had luck with getting people with more time than money into the game. Or sorry, other way around, with more money than time. Because they were able to get the starter bundle and then just buy packs until they could build the deck that they wanted. And if you can just get a deck, then at least you've got a starting point. And a bunch of these decks have just Kazakus and Mankrik. Well, I guess Mankrik you just get from the rewards track. But having Kazakus, a solid neutral legendary, is good because you can use it in a bunch of different deck lists. So I really like the look of these decks, and I think this is a great time to be a new player in Hearthstone.
And in addition to giving you, in addition to Kazakus being a good legendary and giving you Mankrik, they give you 2 legendaries on the road track, 2 Venomous Scorpids. So those just go in every deck. You just play them all. But yeah, it's $20 is...
Oh, and don't forget Alexstrasza, which is free because it's in the core set.
Yep. So $20, I've seen some people saying $20 is a lot for a single deck. If you have cards already, yes, it is, and don't buy these, because they're really just an introductory tool for getting into the game. If you have only played a few classes and you need to unlock cards in other classes and you're missing a lot, then it could be a good deal if you get everything in the deck list. But if you're pretty advanced in your collection, you've played through a couple expansions already, probably these aren't targeted at you, and it's probably not a great cost-benefit thing, and that's okay, because this is a product that is squarely aimed at newer players. And when I've been recommending the game, I disagree with both of you. It's very easy to recommend the game. You tell them, install Hearthstone, go to the modes button, click Battlegrounds, and just play, and have a good time. But Constructed, you're not going to do a better job than getting people into Constructed than this. And I could see a world where maybe finishing a rewards track or whatever, level 100 at a rewards track, if you get there through BGs, you get a token, and you get a deck. Could see that. I don't know if they're going to do that. They probably won't right away. But I just think about the amount of times how many packs it takes to get enough dust for one legendary. And I feel like 20 packs is usually the number that I landed on. And instead you can just have a deck. Seems worth it to me.
Yeah, just imagine trying to build a deck with $20 worth of packs versus just getting a deck.
I don't know what you mean trying to recommend the game with BGs. When the Morgul skin was on the line, there was no BGs. So you had to recommend the game to people with just the game.
I think this is rad. I'm really glad they're doing it. They have some landmines here, because the first time they nerf a card, a primary card in one of these decks, there's going to be problems, and they're going to have to figure out how do we give collateral dust.
Well, this feels like an illusion to me, because if you get the legendary and you get the full dust value, like you can just turn it into whatever other thing you want that is now in the deck or not. So I'm confused by this question of like, well, what happens if they nerf something in the deck? You get a full dust refund. That's what happens. I don't know. I don't see that as a big loss when it feels covered by the dust refund that they already do. I don't know. Maybe explain to me why it's worse.
Which thing's worse? What? Wasn't paying attention.
Oh, just in terms of like, why is it so bad for them to nerf something that's in one of these decks if they give you a dust refund anyway?
Because if you're buying this as a player that does not know what is good, and then they give you something that is good and then make it more bad, you have to figure out what else to do. The main value of this is eliminating the player's need to seek external guidance. It's in the game guidance. So if they nerf a relevant major card in your deck, and the way they nerf lately hasn't seemed like they're going to completely invalidate decks. If they move first day of school to 1 mana or whatever, you can still play it. But the whole point is to not have the player need to leave the client to know what deck they can play. And if they nerf a card, maybe the player keeps running it, or maybe they don't know what to do, and then they either have to play something suboptimal or go outside the client.
Suppose. I just think it doesn't feel like such a huge problem to have to ask like, oh, you need to extra compensate for this when it's already compensated for.
But it's real money only, right? Like it's only $20 US or whatever.
That is
currency.
true. Yeah.
And okay, I understand what you're saying because the dust refund should deal with this, but Reddit thread, lol Blizzard sold us a deck and then ruined it. Cash grab, fire Bobby Kotick, boycott Blizzard. And by the way, I'm not like a big Bobby Kotick fan. I don't want to give that kind of impression, and I'm glad that he cut his salary in half and it's nowhere near enough, and eat the rich and whatever. But you're going to see disproportionate response to they sold me a deck and then broke it, even though if they nerf first day of school, you can keep playing first day of school or whatever. It's going to have a community response, and I don't know how they're going to handle it, and I don't know how the community's going to handle it either.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much more a win, even if that happens, that I'm kind of okay with it. And Alec Dawson did make a note, just so that there is some transparency, as he says. They are still planning to do balance changes after the Masters Tour, but they're still deciding on what those changes are going to be. And they could definitely include some cards that are in the Battleready decks, but they haven't made any final decisions, so they're not sure yet. So it would be unfortunate if that happened, but as Hat said, they haven't really been nerfing in a manner that really just takes any card completely out of the game at this point. Except maybe kind of Deca Lunacy, but people still play that card sometimes.
Yeah. I don't think they should, but they do.
Yeah, I agree. Either way, so moving on to the last note for specifically this big patch, the Book of Heroes Thrall is going to be happening with the patch. So Thrall's coming out, and it's going to be updated so that the rewards track will open the earliest page on which you have unclaimed rewards instead of opening on the wrong page, so that you might miss rewards. And they're also fixing a bug that were searching for missing in the collection manager would not count golden cards you own towards the result of what you're missing.
There are way more bug fixes than that. These are the important ones because
Right.
I missed I have to check every page now because I missed a 50 gold 3 pages ago one time, and now I'm just like, did I miss it? Did I get it all? And the missing thing was actually causing people to make cards that they didn't need, so I'm glad they nudged that.
And that's it for the patch. We do have a couple more notes for news here. Alleria is back. Alleria Windrunner was added to the shop yesterday, unfortunately with the incorrect pricing, so it has been re-added with the correct price of $9.99 US, or purchasable for 1,500 gold. And they apologize and are thanking people for their understanding. I had already mentioned this dev tweet from Alec, but also Deck Tech made a tweet to clarify that the patch notes are going live tomorrow, but the patch is planned for next week.
Wait, hold on.
And
Are we just going to gloss over what Alex said in his tweet? Alex said some stuff.
I literally said it word for word.
Okay, so we're getting balance. Balance seems good, right?
We knew that though, right?
I
But we
don't
thought it
know
was
what
next
they're
week.
going to hit, though.
And Canter Slow.
Yeah, and Canter Slow to 3 would be nice.
Hysteria to 4. Hysteria does not need to cost 3. That card is stupid.
That is also true. Yeah.
Both of you right now are not naming Paladin cards. I think we should be naming Paladin cards.
First
and I
day of
think
school needs to be
First
worse. I
day
have
to
no
1.
idea how to nerf it. You can also put Conviction to
think
2. You can put Conviction to 2.
Conviction to, I think, +2/+0.
Okay, that works too.
I don't want it to be a fireball anymore. 1 mana fireball is too much.
Conviction is a lot of damage.
It's so
Anytime
much
I
damage.
play that, anytime I've played like Conviction, Hand of It All, and then I draw the second Conviction, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't planning on killing my opponent this turn, but I guess they're just dead.
Yeah. I mean, Crab Rider to 3 health is a very easy adjustment to make, and Crab
Yeah,
Rider's
that
in a
is
lot
true.
of decks. There is also the whole trifecta of non board based decks with Il'gynoth, Elucia, and Ticketus. I don't know if they're going to hit any of those. I do know that if you nerf Crab Rider, Deck of Lunacy, First Day of School, and even if you move Hysteria to 4, whatever, Priest Control gets a lot better. So I don't know if they want that to be the thing they do. I don't know how expansive the nerfs are going to be, and also they could probably buff Shaman.
What do you mean? They got the best card in the set.
Okay, you're not wrong. That card is really good, but also you have to build a deck after you put in 2 Spawn Pool Foragers, and that's kind of difficult.
Yeah, sad.
Oh, that card. I was confused. For
I
a
was,
moment.
I was kind of memeing a little bit.
I mean, it's a good card, but it's also not in the Shaman list that we're playing.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
also, not Dragon Queen. Alex draws a Lifebinder. Maybe 8 damage is too much damage. Maybe she can do 6 or something.
Oh, but the flavor though.
Yeah, the flavor of getting killed from 24 by a rogue is fun and all, but maybe we just don't do that. And she's in a lot of decks right now just as a Pyroblast. I don't think that
is
was
true.
the intention.
Should be
of the
10
card.
mana too, right?
Could be. The dragons have typically been 9 mana 8/8s, but yeah, they could move it to 10 mana.
Could move
Or
it to
they
10
can
mana.
reduce
I
the
mean,
damage. Yeah.
Deathwing costs 10 mana. I know it's a 12/12, but
It is.
could move it to 10, and then even if you play Alex and Shadow Step it, you still can't Alex Tenwu Alex the next turn. Unless you also Shadow Step a Tenwu.
Right. Yeah, you need more actual reductions. And even then
Yeah.
the cap is
I mean, I guess you have Octobot, but it's significantly harder.
yeah.
So,
don't
yeah,
know.
Alex being able to targeted Ragnaros, pretty good. That is also life or light Neuros.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like it being so prevalent in every case except taking 24 from it.
But that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's
I don't
way
know
more
if it needs
than
to.
9 or 10. 24 is a lot more than 9 or 10.
It's
That is true.
Your math checks out once again. Yeah, the cards that jump out to me, are Incanter's Flow, Hysteria, and some Paladin card, and then the rest, like, it's just flavor changes. I think there will be a point where Crab Rider maybe shouldn't be a 1/4, but I don't know if it needs to happen right away. It does feel a little Edwin Van Cleefy. There are a lot of Paladin cards you can hit. But also, I don't think this format needs major changes, and the mini set is probably not that far away, so it's a question of what kind of shakeup are they looking for. Mancrick, like Angry Mancrick, maybe not 10 health. Maybe Angry Mancrick can have less health.
Please make it not 10 health.
Yeah. That one feels like way too much health. I agree.
Oh man, 18 health if you Blessing of Authority that one.
It's large, quite large.
How do you ever kill it? Nobody plays Equality.
Devolve?
Yeah, true.
Devolving Missiles does a lot of work. And
I do think if Shaman gets real card draw, it will immediately be in contention.
Yeah, but they don't have any card draw cards to buff, so that's unfortunate.
Oh no, that's what I mean. That's why mini expansion, not buffs.
And it kind of, I wonder if we'll look back at the mini set. It's for Dark Moon Races, they added 35 cards to the year. For Barons Forward, they designed 170 cards, then cut 35 of them out. And I wonder if we'll notice that things just felt missing that make more sense with the mini set. But also, I don't know if that's the best way to design 170, then pull back 35, because then some decks feel like they're missing pieces. We'll have to see. I'm curious. But
And great news for Cora, because Cora is no longer the person being blamed for everything wrong with her stone. That is now HS Deck Tech. Make sure you tweet at him with all of your angry tweets. Please don't do that. I'm just kidding. But Celestalon did confirm that Deck Tech may now be blamed for everything wrong with her stone. And Deck Tech, I'm sorry for your DMs. That will probably not be a very pleasant experience.
Is this just the hazing of whoever's new at Blizzard?
Yes. And also the person who writes the patch notes, I don't know if that's the best visible job to have, but we're going to find out exactly how it goes. Because Deck Tech is a very visible person that writes the patch notes. Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna tag him. I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna tag him and say fix your game. Yep. And then one last news item.
I mean, it's the same news item we have every week. Iksar had mentioned briefly once that maybe he would do them bi-weekly, but no! He is sticking to doing an AMA every week, and this week is no different. As always, we have the link to the out-of-card summary of all the questions that were asked and answered by Iksar, but we have some of the main points here. I'm actually going to throw it over to Hat for these ones, as Hat does Twitter, and I don't.
I sit on Twitter during the entire AMA every week and just constantly refresh to read the new answers, yes. I don't have a problem, you have a problem. So, there's a lot of information in here that's worth going into, including like some really big long-term plans and ideas that Dean has. But some key points we want to point out is that instead of making a new limited format, they're a lot more likely to iterate and improve on Duels and Arena. There are ideas floating around specifically about Arena, like system and rank additions, but those are a couple months off. If they will only create new modes that will have healthy populations in the mid to long term, so they're not looking to make new modes that like completely die off. It's not good for the game. And you don't want a mode that if you delete it, a small percentage of the player base will be unhappy, but you can't maintain it. So I think Classic is a great example of a mode that costs them basically nothing to make and they never have to do anything to sustain it because the cards stay the same forever. So I think that was a good example of a mode they can make with low cost and high upside. Interesting note, if Hearthstone Battlegrounds was on Team, most days it would be top 10, often even top 5. It's really popular. Really popular. And Dean specifically said, we have plans for many Battlegrounds cosmetics. I would expect the support for Battlegrounds to increase significantly in the next 12 to 18 months. Players love the mode. It's massively popular. We've been ramping up design, engineering, and art support to match that. It just takes time. Battlegrounds is a full game that is just as important to them as constructed. But remember, do you know how long it's been since Battlegrounds came out? It's been a year and a half from the initial release
not
date.
that long.
Not that long at all. And the amount of stuff they've done since it came out. It came out November 2019. 5 months later, they did the first expansion for it with dragons. Then 4 months later, they did pirates. Then 4 months later, they did elementals. And now they're doing Quillboars. They did not miss a beat with putting the mode out and then immediately supporting it with new content right out of the gate. So the system stuff is lagging behind a bit. They've tried, but there's some stuff going on, though we finally have 8-player lobbies. It's clearly a work in progress, which is why it still has the beta tag. But for a game that's only been out a year and a half, it's been pretty well supported, and it's good to know they're planning on putting a lot more resources into it, and also that they recognize the need for that. So
Honestly, the 8-player lobbies came way faster than I expected them to be able to get that out there. It's obviously, I wanted it even sooner than what they did put out there, but the fact that they were able to do what I would consider to be the tournament mode for Battlegrounds in 8-player lobbies, they pushed that out real quick.
Well, and it also has some appeal if, like, if people can get a group together to play 8-player Among Us, you can get a group of people together to play 8-player BGs, right?
Yeah. And 6-player and 4-player and or 5-player and whatever, like you can scale as long as you have at least 5 people. It's if I were a Battlegrounds main, I would feel a little shaky after the past 6 months or so. There have been some issues with MMR exploiting. There have been some issues with undersupported stuff. There have been a lot of very visible bugs in the system. Competition and support for the esports side has been pretty lacking. I think that it is reasonable to have concern and trepidation if you're a BG's main. None of us are, so I don't think that any of us really can relate to that. But it's also a new title. And Dean had a follow-up to the 12 and 18 months comment, because Slissa commented like, that's a long time to wait. And he said, 12 to 18 months for all ideas doesn't mean 12 months to see the first thing. So I think they're looking to implement a lot of stuff as soon as possible. But,
hiring people takes time.
I wouldn't blame any BG's main for being apprehensive and not trusting this, because it's been a rocky 6 months. But also, I have faith in the team to do stuff. And so far, through ups and downs sometimes, that faith has been justified. Because there's nothing else they've proven repeatedly that they listen. And so I am looking forward to what they do here, and hopeful that they regain that trust.
I'm hoping the cosmetics catch up, because I really think mainly I want the financial support for them to be there so that they can make that 12 to 18 month be closer to the 12 than the 18, because it costs money to hire people, and if it's profiting them more to have that game mode be successful, then they're going to be able to get more updates out to it sooner.
Yeah. And honestly, Battlegrounds, I said this on the Angry Chicken this week, Battlegrounds is embarrassingly cheap to play. You can get into it at the beginning of an expansion totally for free, skip the perks, probably get the gold to earn the perks for the next expansion by halfway through it, and then you just buy the perks when the new expansion comes out, and it's free to play completely forever. And for a game with so many people playing it, and they obviously can't paywall the core experience because it's worked for them so well for long enough that if they try and take that away, they'll have a riot. But you need the cosmetics to make some money off this thing, and you need to make some money off this thing, which has tons of players playing all the time, because it's a very low-hanging fruit, and then they can justify more improvements internally by hiring more people because they're making more money. I don't think that Hearthstone is missing on being financially viable, but I would like for it to be called out in the earnings report as being a major profit leader, as opposed to what it is right now, which is it's mentioned that people are highly engaged and they gloss over how much money it's making. I would like for it to be notably profitable in a really major way.
Mainly the battleground side of it, because obviously the other side of it, but I don't know that the amount of money being profited off of people, because literally the only profit that they can make off of it is people who buy the battlegrounds perks, right? Or people that buy packs that they're never going to use because all they do is play BGs. So
Yeah.
It's like
There is one thing you can purchase in BGs. A single thing.
it's not that I'm
And-
saying Blizzard needs to make more money. It's that I'm saying Battlegrounds needs to make more money to justify its place in the client.
Well, and like if you're in our situation where you're getting the large bundle anyway for the regular game, we just sort of by default, like I forget that Battlegrounds perks is a thing because it just comes with the $80 bundle, and so we kind of just end up with that. Like I haven't played BGs without the perks, even though I'm not really a BGs player, just because I get them as part of the $80 bundle. So, I mean, we've seen tons of free games monetize off cosmetics. League of Legends, Apex, Fortnite. There's a lot of games that are free to play, have huge player bases, and monetize off cosmetics.
Yeah. And another one that's doing that now, Hearthstone is doing that, where you buy the Tavern Pass and then you get stuff that's pretty. It is very clearly something they intend to do. It is very clearly working, because you think about the original attempt to monetize cosmetics, 3 $10 hero portraits, and then stop. Of course that didn't work. That's not good enough. But they figured out, hey, we could do this smarter and better, and they have more people working on the team, and they have more experience, and now I feel like the cosmetics in Hearthstone are like really compelling and also constantly available and changing. Like, we're talking about maybe crafting the beast to get something. Yeah. Also, there's one more question here that we'll read before we jump into tournaments that I asked. Because Jeff Kaplan left Blizzard last week, Papa Jeff, Overwatch will miss him. And in the past few years, a lot of really high-level employees have left Blizzard. A lot of game designers, or game directors. And so I'm like, hey, should we be spooked? What's going on? And Iksar gave an answer that if you think this is a spin answer, this probably won't convince you, but I was compelled by this answer. I think it makes sense. We've been growing significantly over the last few years, so even a natural rate of turnover is going to come across as more people leaving than normal. As for game director level people leaving, it's also more normal than you would think. The kind of people that become game directors are talented, ambitious people. They've reached the next level in their careers multiple times and kept pushing onward. Those kinds of people are rarely going to reach game director and say, yeah, this is enough for me. There is always a new challenge or new idea. When people that talented get a new calling, they tend to act on it. All that said, it does make me sad to lose the Broads, Jays, Dodds, Morheims, and Kaplans of the world. Whenever you lose people that immensely talented, it pains everyone around. Again, though, people that talented are always on loan until they find a new challenge. I buy that. They get restless because they want to make new stuff.
It kind of reminds me of the answer to, why don't the world's billionaires just like give their money to these nice causes to solve the world's problems? And it's because if you're the kind of person that's cutthroat enough to make that much money, you don't do those things.
Which is how you get the $1 billion or more.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
you don't get $1 billion by giving a lot of it away whenever you get it.
So
somehow money generally accumulates more money.
Funny how that works.
Didn't mean to get political there, but it has
fine.
that similar vibe of, the kind of people that are going to go for that position are going to want new challenges and do new things. And we saw that with Broad making his own company, all these other people going over to Dreamhaven to work on a new project there. Makes sense to me.
We miss him, but I like where Hearthstone's at. So, I don't know. Anyways, tournament talk? Because there's kind of a Masters Tour this weekend. Let's go.
It's the Grand Tournament!
All right, so bunch of tournament stuff going on this week. Most important, Masters Tour Orgrimmar starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, and it's the Masters Tour, the first Masters Tour Barons. pretty exciting. I'm curious to see what goes on here, and what the meta is going to look like. I've been pretty impressed overall with the production level that ESL has done on Grandmasters. Like, it's been fun to watch, and things have just kind of worked. And I would expect this to also be a pretty good looking event. Curious to see what lineups look like, because I don't feel like this format is done evolving. Have you been involved in any testing yet, Elias?
So, unfortunately, our one player who is qualified this time around is in EU, so very, very different time zone situation. They haven't gotten much like actual testing with him, but we've been discussing, various decks and lineups, things we're interested in targeting, and I was distressed to hear someone bring up that Weapon Rogue might actually be a good bring for the tournament, because no one wants that.
That is unfortunate, because I hate that deck. It is the opposite of everything that I want Hearthstone to be. Yeah, but it might very well be good.
Still not on ladder, though. For all you listeners, still not going to be good on ladder.
Well,
in
at High
you get
Legend, it
banned.
kind of is good. That's kind of the problem.
But at High Legend, people that can then change behavior because they expect to see a person a lot, and they can shut that stuff down by playing counters.
Anyways, I'm glad that that's not a ladder ready deck, but yeah, I could easily see it being good at the tournament. And this tournament is, the instinct I vibe is that it's going control-y, but I don't know if that means a lot of mage to beat the control decks, and then the weapon rogue to beat the mage decks, and then you play minions to beat the weapon rogue. Like, I don't know. Maybe there will be some lineup that does well with like Rush Warrior and just Paladin and minions. We'll see. But we also had Grandmasters last week. There's no Grandmasters and Qualifiers coming up this weekend because of Masters Tour. But last week in Grandmasters, Specialists, Rami took it home. Let's go, Rami. With the Hunter list that sideboarded to the Beastmaster OTK. Really, really fun watching him beat No Hands Gamer in the finals. Really great finals. Like, it's two players that are working really hard and super engaged with the game. It's really nice to see. In Europe, Swids beat Jarla, and in APAC, Blitzchung beat Dawn. So, the winning decks, Hunter with Lerock sideboard. There was a Priest with a greedy sideboard, including South Sea Strong Arms, I think. No, South Sea Scoundrels. And an APAC just Token Druid. Because, I don't know. Play a Gibberling. Kill people. It's cool. It's really fun matches to watch. Now, this is our spot to remind you, the midweek Hearthstone Esports YouTube content is actually pretty great. Raven does The Curve, which is kind of a recap of everything that goes on in a very brief moment. Darok does Top 5 Moments, where he recaps the top 5 moments that you can see each week and clips and talks about what happens. The Hot Takes video between Sottle and TJ this week was very entertaining. I have a timestamp link in this particular video where
So
TJ suggests that because of their creativity, someone from the Americas region will win the Masters Tour, and Sottle's reaction to that sentence is pretty priceless. And last week, Gia did a great Mull It Over video on Hunter. Mull It Over, my favorite Hearthstone content over on that channel. Worth checking out if you want to learn mulligans. So as far as qualifiers, there are no quals this week. Last week, Rush Warrior, Aggro Paladin with no secrets, and Secret Rogue were the best decks overall, but Miracle Rogue, Spell Mages, Secret Paladins were doing fine, and Token Druid was okay as well. The winners, a lot of those top 3 decks in various permutations, along with a good number of Control Priests won some qualifiers, some Spell Mages, some Miracle Rogues, Druid here, an OTKTH there, one Face Hunter, the first lineup of the week, and then Face Hunter dropped off as more people played minion decks. Ladder the Vicious Syndicate report came out today. You can check on the continuing developments, but not a ton of surprises. Both Paladin decks are still good. Rush Warrior Face Hunter is actually still pretty alright, but there are lots of other options you can play, like Spell Mage and Secret Rogue and Gibberling Druid and so on. At High Legend, both Priest and Poison Rogue are relevant. So, the ranked brackets, like, you'll really notice the differences at different levels of play. And one final note before we move on to Decksplanations to talk about different flavors of Paladin. The Dreamhack Clash. Want to shout out our buddy Wicked Good at Casting and Bemi is running. After Master Tour Orgrimar, this is broadcasting over on the twitch.tv/Dreamhack_Clash channel. Go check it out if you want to see Steve cast some Hearthstone. It's North American Regionals, Latin America was last week. That was our tournament talk. And Botic has been crushing with one kind of Paladin. Edelweiss been crushing with the other kind. Let's talk about flavors of Paladin.
So I feel like no matter what, whether you're going Secret Paladin or no secrets, Paladin's just pretty good right now. The deck gets on board very quickly, and because of the buffs it runs, whether it's Avenge and Conviction or I believe the secret deck also runs Hand of Adal, right?
Everyone runs Hand of Adal.
Yeah, like Conviction and Hand of Adal are in all your Paladin decks. The secretless ones also run Kings and Authority, but no matter what, you can snowball an early board with Paladin very hard, and Crab Rider especially. So when it comes to mirrors, you are playing very, very heavily for board, and yeah, honestly, it's just a really solid minion deck, which we haven't had this kind of board relevance. I feel like for kind of a while that it's been this important, right? If we think back to before the core set.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that statement.
Which card?
What do you mean, which card?
What I zoned out. What did he say?
Talking about board relevance. The board
Oh,
actually matters in this meta, where it hasn't felt like it's mattered as much in a long time.
Yeah, it's I think so. I'm trying to think of the last time that we were like really investing in the board and developing in a meaningful way. I mean, since when Risky Skipper was around, you couldn't really do that too much. Saviors of Old Doom, kind of. But then also sometimes you got blown out by Mogu Flesh Shaper, or Combo Priest happened, but like, yeah, this feels like the meta where you're most
the
like...
Ziliax era felt like there was board was really
the
hard
Dr.
to
Boom
stick
Mad
around.
Genius era.
Yeah.
And then what, the year before that was Odd and Even, where like your stuff didn't matter because you just pressed the button. Yes, board matters and resources matter more than they have in a long time. And I think it's a good thing.
Well, we'll start just talking about, you know, certain things why this deck is good. What felt good to you, but on the Secret Paladin?
Yeah, so the list I'm running is I guess kind of an old list. I basically just went to HS Replay, picked out something with a close to 70% win percentage according to them, and started jamming it. It's got the very traditional early game of secrets, Crab Rider, Hand of Adal, Knight of Anointment. These are all things that you're going to see very commonly. The secret package, I assume, is fairly standard with 2 Oh My Yogs, and then kind of one of the other good ones. So you have 1 Avenge, 1 Galloping Savior, 1 Noble Sacrifice, and it turns into a mid game where essentially you have your secrets early, you essentially get a lot of stuff in play, or just stick a board early, so that when you slam an Ogremancer, which this deck plays too, the majority of decks have a really hard time dealing with it, because the board-based decks, in order to kill an Ogremancer, usually have to do something like play a spell, which puts a taunt in the way, and then the Ogremancer survives, and you kind of just trade off their board. And then, obviously, the spell-heavy decks generally have a hard time. Hysteria is definitely a card, but
it's like 2 cards, but it's
right.
costed as single target removal and is totally a board clear.
Right. But overall, you also play, basically you have you have 3 finishers in the deck. in Alexstrasza and Hammer of the Naru, which generally just goes face 3 times for 9 damage to set up for the set up for the Alexstrasza for lethal. So the deck basically just has a very solid early game that develops into something like an Orgrimancer, which kind of locks, in a lot of cases, locks your opponent out of the game, and you win with Hammer of the Naru Alexstrasza a lot of times.
Yeah, 3 swings on that weapon is a lot of swings. There have definitely been some games where usually it comes up in against other Paladins, where you're doing a lot of fighting for the board on the board, and then you get some swings here and there. Occasionally, you just say, "Hey, I got some swings of Angling Rod earlier, and now I have these 3 weapon swings off Hammer of the Naru. I'm going to finish those swings just in time to Alex them for lethal."
Yeah, it's almost like a perfect setup. And also the deck just has so much cycle in it, it really feels hard to not find something to do. It's so rare that I actually hero power unless I'm playing around something, that it's just the deck is cheap cycle cards and then powerful mid-game threats that can end the game. I wouldn't call them super end-game threats except for maybe Alex, but just a lot of very difficult things to deal with.
And we mentioned how Hand of Adal is in everything, and Convictions and everything. There's a bunch of Paladin cards that are just going to be in all of these lists. First Day of School, Conviction, Knight of Anointment, Righteous Protector, Crab Rider, Hand of Adal. Murger, McGurgle, honestly, just because it can pull you a win out of nowhere a lot of times. And Angling Rod, because we're fighting for board early, that weapon is just really useful in the early game to help do that, and then also gives you some Murlocs. Obviously, in the secret list, you have Sword of the Fallen instead, because you can't have too many overlapping weapons. Hammer of the Naru in everything. This is a card that didn't shine when it was printed, just because, again, board not as important. And it was a good card back then. It just couldn't keep up with the other things that were going on. So Paladin right now is like it's a mid-range deck mostly. We call it aggro. It definitely has aggressive plays. It's one of those decks where it's got a lot of value. It doesn't look flashy in terms of we're not playing a single card that draws us a bunch of cards. But Knight of Anointments, we have 2 of those. They draw us cards. Hand of Adal, 2 of those. Those draw us cards. Sometimes we have Talon to draw us Alexstrasza. So there's a bunch of incremental card draw and like bits of value from First Day and Angling Rod.
I hate all the names of this deck, by the way. Like, it's people can't decide if they want to call it aggro or mid-range Paladin. I've just been calling it buff Paladin because it plays 8 buffs, and I think that's the most distinctive factor of the deck.
Yeah, for sure. I think in general we're kind of boring with our deck names, and though when something doesn't exactly fit a mold, there's not a great name to land on.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of mid-range Paladin for the version I've been playing, just because whenever I've played the deck, it feels like it leans fairly heavily on Orgrimancer and Hammer of the Naru, which are pretty like staple mid-range cards to me. Like they just feel like the oh man, what was the Magic the Gathering card, the Rhino, called?
Siege Rhino?
Siege Rhino. They just feel like Siege Rhinos, essentially.
Siege Rhino is
whenever I play them.
That's true.
Which people who don't play Magic won't know what that is, but it's just the
It's
deck
a very
really feels like
efficient 4-mana minion is what it is.
It's like if Life Drinker didn't have a stats penalty. Like, you just chipped away a little bit. Trampling Rhino is actually very similar to Siege Rhino, where just like it deals face damage and kills something.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's exactly if Life Drinker didn't have a stats penalty, right? If Life Drinker was a Yeti.
Yeah.
With the same card.
Yep. And yeah, like the Paladin minions are just all a little bit too annoying to deal with, and if you leave any of them on the board, sometimes you just die, or at least like the minion gets really, really big. And removal in this format is none of it is just really straight up kill a thing all that much. Sometimes if you play Blessing of Authority, you get Shadow Word Death, which is not really where you want to be. But Hysteria, at least you can play around it by just not playing more minions. And if you have eggs in play and you have conviction in your hand, that conviction's going to find a target. Like, it's going to be a thing that happens. So, I don't know. And Secret Paladin as well. When it gets ahead, you keep your opponent off balance so much. And Bot, you were talking about this. Your goal is like, get ahead, oh my Yogg their spells away, and then stick an Orgrimmancer, and then usually the game ends.
Yeah, especially in the mirror. Like, Orgrimmancer obviously great against Mage. Mage basically doesn't beat that card unless you're super far behind. And really it shines a lot in the mirror, because what happens is, since we're not playing any of the buff cards, generally you can kind of stall their minion development because we're not playing any of the expensive buff cards. So as long as you keep them off the board, as soon as you have the Orgrimmancer in play, they generally have to play a buff spell to get through to kill the Orgrimmancer. But by the time they do that, it obviously puts a taunt in the way. So they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't at that point. And oftentimes they just don't get to come back from that. And once you play the Orgrimmancer, the list also plays 2 Argent Protectors. So they not only are they behind at that point, generally you just Argent Protector for a value trade, and then they're so far behind and can't really do anything. So that's why I really like the list. I obviously do think that everything has different uses. I could definitely see the value in the buff cards as well.
So that all that being said, as usually the other side of this matchup, my goal is generally to just play around Steed as much as possible, because accidentally playing into Steed is how you immediately lose the game. That's how you lose the board. And so I find that the matchup is like pretty fine as long as I'm paying super hard attention. And if I'm distracted, I just play into Steed and lose. A lot of times, what you want to do if you don't have the minions is, don't play into Oh My Yogg until you can play 2 spells, right? So do things like save your coin so that you can use the coin to proc, because if they're pulling it off of sword, they don't get to choose when they throw it down. So holding onto the coin until you want to guarantee a buff, there's not really going to be a bad outcome 0 mana spell. And
you can get overloaded sometimes with Bloom, but a lot of times your turn gets so much better with Bloom than you're happy about it.
Yeah.
And something
I would also say though, real quick, I wanted to bring this up. Not necessarily with buff Paladin specifically, because you're really trying to land that specific spell, but I would say don't undervalue the coin when it comes to Oh My Yogg. There are a lot of times where I think my opponent's coin to potentially proc the Oh My Yogg, and it would have been just better if they played a spell and used the coin to get out something very specifically to deal with your board. So I think a lot of times, obviously, coin is good to proc the Oh My Yogg, but there are definitely some times where I think if you save the coin to specifically get out something that will stabilize you, I think it's good to preserve it sometimes.
I definitely have a backup plan a lot of times. Like, sometimes what I'm doing is, okay, we're going to coin. If it's not Oh My Yogg, we're going to do this play, usually play Blessing of Authority. If it is coin, well, then we have to do this other play. So you always have to kind of have those contingencies. And the quickest way to end the game is usually to be the first person to stick Blessing of Authority. But you don't get to just give up once you do that. Like, you need to keep the other person off the board still. I definitely have lost games in the straight mirror where we're both playing the buff version, where I had a Crab Rider that snowballed with Hand of Adal and then I played a Kings. And the turn I played Kings, my opponent had a Sungill Wake Up, came from first day of school. And it was really, really hard for me to pass up on that 14 damage face, and I should not have done it. Because I was going into my opponent's Blessing of Authority turn. And even though I had a taunt in the way with Argent Protector, had I taken out the 2 minions rather than going face for 14, because the deck is so board-based and doesn't have a ton of burst, until you get to Alexstrasza, I really needed to clear a couple of minions, because what ended up happening is they managed to clear everything, and then they played Blessing of Authority on a thing, and it just barely survived killing my Crab Rider. And then I was off the board for the rest of the game.
But
So,
14. That's
I
so
know, 14
Ugh.
face, yeah.
It hurts. You're probably right, but I don't like it.
There was another time when I got a tiny fin off of an Underlight Angling Rod. And I thought about playing it, and I didn't play it. And because of that, I could Blessing of Kings my Nerubian Egg to kill their buffed Mankrik, or I think that's what it was. But it was going to be a damage short, or maybe it wasn't a Mankrik. I forget. It was some like 4 or 5 minion. So Kings on Egg was going to be a damage short of clearing this 5 health minion. Whereas if I had played the 1/1, they wouldn't have been able to clear all of my stuff. I would have had a 1/1 left over, and that Kings would instead have full cleared the 4 or 5 minion. And it's just these little things where, you need to put as much down as possible, to fight for board as much as possible, so that you can actually get those value trades that are going to allow you to snowball and win the game. Because I wasn't able to get a full clear there, it just became awkward. And once someone puts down a Blessing of Authority, if you don't immediately have a way of clearing that Blessing of Authority minion, it's all downhill from there.
It should be noted, this is a mirror consideration. Undertrading can be a problem. If you are against more controlling strategies, in particular, Warlock. If you are trading against Warlock, you are messing up, especially against 1/3s. Just leave him on the board. Nobody cares. It's fine. Just leave him in play. Well, maybe not Venomous Scorpion. That's a very particular 1/3. You have to kind of deal with that one. But the Armor Vendor and Spirit Jailer, don't overvalue killing them. Lucky Soul Hoarders, whatever. Just hit him in the face. Because all the removal spells do is to try and stop you from hitting them in the face. And just let them do the trading. Don't do it for them. Because if you find yourself against Warlock and you're running out of resources, and they aren't running out of life, you're trading too much. As an example.
Mage too. Go face against Mage all the time.
Yes. Yep.
Ignore their minions. Their minions are their goal. Mage's goal is to use their removal spells on your stuff. Make their minions be removal spells. Don't let their minions remove your minions. Make their minions remove your minions, I guess.
Yeah, and that's definitely a play pattern thing that is divergent in terms of if you're versus basically Priest, Warlock, Mage versus if you're against other Paladins or Warriors or certain Rogues.
Yeah. And if you're against Secret Rogue, good luck, spread out your buffs. Because you will get stunnered and it will not be great for you. And if you spread out your buffs and they have Stun or Shadow Step, it doesn't matter anyways. Good luck. Yeah. Matchup is miserable for the buff-based Paladin. For the Secret Paladins, it's not quite as bad. But Ogremancer still doesn't line up as well. But it's still you'd rather
it's really
be the
rough on
Paladin.
an Ogremancer, but you still have Hammer of the Naru. I'm sure does well in that matchup, because even if they bounce the 6/6, you still have a 9 damage weapon going. And the biggest thing is just that there's not a lot of decks that have a lot of healing, so you can set up for Alex in just so many situations, and that's why Priest is not a great matchup for this deck, because Priests can heal themselves and get out of range of Alex. You can still definitely beat them, but Priest can be a little rough.
Yeah, Priest, you do a lot of playing around Hysteria, and setting up these minions where it's like one that's really big, one that's mid-sized, and then you need to stop playing minions because Hysteria will mess you up. That is where it can come in handy to have things like the Nerubian Eggs and Terran Gorefiend make these complicated board states so that they have to work a lot harder to get the full clear.
Also, do not Terran Gorefiend into their Soul Mirror turn because, you know, priest stuff.
Yeah, a Soul Mirror
You're
honestly
muted, buddy.
just feels... What?
Bodicus is muted.
Should be. Oh.
I was muted.
Soul Mirror honestly feels like a nightmare for the deck because you end up giving them such great things potentially to revive. I was playing against a priest that ended up getting a rally, and the rally pulled back my Nerubian Egg and Argent Protector. And
Well, those both cost 2.
No, Argent Protector is a 1 mana.
Oh, Righteous Protector.
Righteous Protector. Sorry.
Wrong Protector.
Righteous Protector. Whatever. Righteous Protector. Which, you know, they don't have any ones, so that was a guaranteed. And yeah, those are also annoying if your priest opponent has them.
Yep. Yeah, priest is not really a great matchup for either, though the secret paladin is capable of keeping them off balance and then sticking an Orgrimancer, and that's pretty good.
It's one of the few spell-based decks that can still kill an Orgrimancer because of Hysteria. Specifically because of Hysteria. But there's just a lot of decks other than Priest and Rush Warrior. Every other deck Orgrimancer is a nightmare for. It does so much work in so many matchups, and your early game is just so powerful that it's really hard to be ready for an Orgrimancer when it comes into play.
So, as we wind down the section, I want to talk just mulligans, because we've already covered matchups and general strategy and whatever. So mulligans that I think you always keep. First Day of School, in every Paladin deck since the dawn of time. Crab Rider. In the secret deck, probably Sword of the Fallen, I would gather. Edelweiss, I'll defer to you on the non-secret deck, if there are any other keeps.
Oh, yeah, you still keep Crab Rider. I generally don't like to keep Nerubian Egg unless I know I'm going to be buffing, like with a Hand of Adal or something. Or if you need a sticky board. But a Nerubian Egg isn't early pressure, so I usually don't want to keep that one. Pretty much looking for First Day of School and Night.
Yeah, I was going to say I always keep Knight of Anointment in every matchup.
I wasn't as sure in Secret because you can draw Avenge, and that's not great. In the non-secret list, it makes sense that you probably hit a Hand of Adal or Conviction or like some other buff. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, the thing about drawing secrets is the whole idea, at least the way I've been playing the secret deck, is to overwhelm your opponent with stuff in the early game. So even if you draw something like an Avenge or a secret, it's still a 1-mana spell. And if you're playing 5 or 6 things in the first 3 turns of the game, your opponent's just not going to be able to deal with the Orgrimancer when it comes into play. You just play, it almost doesn't matter what 6 cards get played in the first 3 turns. There's almost no deck that can deal with that. And obviously, like, Sword of the Fallen helps the most with that, because you play the sword and it plays 2 other things and draws the 2 cards and plays them right away. And then the First Day of School, it's just it's really a lot about overloading. So I like Knight of Anointment just because you don't have a lot. The only other 1-drops you really want from the deck would be First Day of School, which is a 0-drop, but it makes 1-drops. And the only other one I somewhat regularly keep would be Mankrik. I keep that a decent amount of the time just because it's so powerful getting that 3/10 in play. And so obviously really if you play it early. I've kept Kazakus before sometimes, but generally only if I'm keeping another card. And I have kept Orgrimancer specifically on coin in a matchup where it's good, and I already have 2 other cards that are good. So it's like you almost never ever keep the card, but we had a game yesterday where we had First Day of School and Sword of the Fallen and some other card in hand, and I'm like, we're just keeping Orgrimancer here because we're against a mage. and we're going to have stuff to do in the early parts of the game, so this Orgrimmancer is just going to be great almost no matter what.
It's
And
like
we have the
keeping
coin to
Jandis
get
and
it out
Rogue
on turn
sometimes.
4.
Like
Yeah,
old Jandis,
so-
pre-nerf.
Most of the time you're not going to keep it, but in that specific matchup, like I wouldn't have kept, if we were playing against a warrior and we had that exact same hand, I wouldn't have kept it because Orgrimmancer is obviously not as good in the warrior matchup as it is in most of the other ones. But almost none of the other cards, I think, had put Northwatch Commander in here, but I don't think I've
I had
ever
not.
kept that card.
I did not.
Okay.
I think with 3 durability sword, you kept that card.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I don't think I've ever kept Northwatch Commander. I'd just rather have something to do on turn 1 and 2. I think that's the most important thing.
And the note that I do have here is I think coining sword is almost always wrong. It's just like, it's not pressure by itself, and secrets do not have value by themselves. You just want to get in play. Just want to get on board.
I coin it against Righteous Protector on 1.
Well, okay, yeah, if they have a 1/1 that you want to hit,
Yeah.
sure.
Or a Knight of Anointment.
There have been
Especially
a few
Knight
times...
of Anointment, I'll coin it. 100%.
Yeah, you're preventing Hand of Adal from sticking. There have been a few times where I've been on a deck that was not Paladin, and my opponent coined sword and hit face. That felt wrong.
Yeah, because then the secrets aren't snowballing anything. You don't have a board yet.
But
It's-
I coin Crab Rider on 1 almost every time.
Oh.
That one, you
Yeah.
just...
Put the fear in them, yeah.
Yeah, even if you don't have a follow-up to it, you just make them think that they have to deal with it, and it's pretty good.
Well,
Yeah,
and Crab Rider,
yeah.
it's so important in the Paladin mirrors as well, because there's a lot of 1/1s that come down early, and Crab Rider is the answer to those.
I don't think that coining Crab Rider on 1 is a hot take. I think that's it's a pretty normal thing.
I'd
Well-
also say with secrets specifically, sequencing, very important. Make sure that for instance, if you have an Oh My Yogg in hand and you're planning on playing it and also swinging with your sword that turn, make sure you do that. I tend to hold my first day of schools, and I'm not sure if that's correct. I hold my first day of schools until I have the potential that I might play one of the 1/1s. Like if I draw it on a turn and I'm already going to be doing something else that turn, I tend to not play it. But I don't know if that's correct. But if I'm going to be most likely playing a Knight of Anointment in a turn, I will play the first day of school first because I might rather play a different 1-drop. But if I draw it on my Kazakus turn or something, I generally tend not to play the first day of school. I'd rather just play the Kazakus and figure out what those 1-drops are later. But I could definitely see the thought process behind playing it to know if you want to play the 1-drops. I guess the question is mostly, would any of the 1-drops change your play for the turn? Or
would they
is
change your Kazakus options, right? Like if you get a broom, you don't need rush.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe that feels kind of fringe to me. Most of the time, I'm inclined to agree with Bot here.
Well, y'all
You know,
really
I
just
still-
Especially
keeping...
against a,
You don't look in the box.
especially against like an Oh My Yogg. Like
gotta
it's
look at-
really good
okay.
to be able to trigger an Oh My Yogg against other
Yeah, yeah.
paladins.
Sure.
Technically,
If there's
you could have
relevance
it
to the
against
0
like
mana spell.
a counter spell. There's every once in a while you could be worried about counter spell from mage.
Yeah, I think it's always a way. Would realistically there be any 1-drops that would change the play you're making that turn? If yes, okay, then play it. If no, then yeah, you can kind of wait. It matters more, as Bot's saying, in the cases where you're going to be activating secrets like Oh My Yogg or Counterspell, or potentially, making sure that you space out the things that you play for Galloping Savior.
Yeah, if we're caring about spell triggers and spell counts, then sure. If none of those things are viable, I'm firing it off because I want to know what's in the box, and there is very little downside to do so unless I have a hand cap issue. Like I want to know what's there because I don't have a mental list of all the 1-drops in the format, and there will be surprises in there. If you're dealing with Counterspell, that's a compelling argument. If you're dealing with Oh My Yogg or Galloping Savior, compelling argument. Could also see it against a rogue just to see, is that a dirty trick? Is that an ambush? Is that a boozle? Whatever. But if we're not dealing with secrets, I think that I'm just firing it off. just to
Yeah,
know
in
what's
that
in
case,
the box.
for sure.
I mean, it definitely happened in one of our games where it was relevant. We didn't play it because we got a prize plunderer on the turn that we were
Oh.
going to play one of the 1-drops, so it mattered. But
Yeah.
um,
Could see
also
that.
like Wand Thief matters too.
Yeah.
Having the trigger first. It's interesting. I definitely will say that I underplay it early when I probably should be playing it to plan out future turns, but I think it's something, it's definitely a decision point rather than an autoplay. It's is this going to have more use as a first day of school, or is it going to have more use of planning out my future turns by knowing what the 1-drops are going to be? So just make sure you're thinking of that before you play it.
The top 5 hits in order off best day of school or first day of school by HS Replay. In order: Prize Plunder's the best one. Blackjack Stunner second best. Imprison Gnarg is, I think, the biggest argument to play first day of school early. Bladed Cultist and Knight of Anointment are the top 5. So yeah, there's 2 combo cards, a Secret Synergy card, a Dormant card, and then Knight of Anointment, which we play already.
Wait,
so,
I'm surprised.
History winner's got to be up there.
Thief wasn't on that list. Right?
well, there are a lot of really good 1-drops, right? But these are the top 5.
There's so many good 1-drops.
Mystery
Holy
Winner,
cow.
Wand Thief, Righteous Protector, Guardian Og Merchant,
Reliquary
Aldor
of
Attendant is
Souls,
totally
Imprisoned
fine.
Homunculus.
Yep. There are a lot of good ones, but the top 5 there, I am not super surprised by 1 mana Vilespine Slayer, 1 mana Freezing Trap Make Guy, 1 mana
All the
Fiery
Og
War
Merchants
Axe.
are fine. Always remember the Og Merchants can kill your opponent's minions, by the way.
Yep.
Do
Very
that
important.
probably more often than you're doing it on your own minions, I would guess.
Yeah.
Oh, and Safety Inspector's nice. Safety Inspector's
fun.
super sweet because you just don't play a secret or something for a while and you just get to shuffle it away and draw a better card.
Paladin seems good. First day of school seems good. Yeah, it's the best mulligan win rate card in both lists, so I wouldn't be surprised they find some way to nerf that, but Lord knows how they're going to do it.
Yeah, because putting it to 1...
It kills the card.
Yeah.
I've heard the suggestion of moving it to only neutral 1-drops, but that kills the flavor. I don't know what they will do, or if they can do something about it, but we'll see.
I really think Conviction should probably get a nerf too. I think 1 mana Fireball is is just a little too
is
good.
excessive. Yeah.
Or, sometimes Pyroblast if you have a Crab Rider in play.
Yeah. Or sometimes we make it turn 10, it is like Pyroblast plus. Well, we're going to wind down the show here, but Paladin seems like a good class, considering the 2 decks we're talking about are the top 2 decks in the format right now by all the stats pages. Definitely recommend putting some time in, and we're not going to get balance changes for a week and a half, 2 weeks, so get your hits while you can. We have many folks to like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, Concede.com. You can find our content info, our show notes, our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com or into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. If you like some CC swag, head over to our shop, shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our many producers: Number Theory, Itinerant Wizard, Doge DK, Proby1, Dr. Fish, Kresh, Cap, Beef Squatch, David P, Snowpack, and Taro, and Lucky. We also want to thank our Twitch subs, Incrediplum, Mr. Bungalow, and the 10 subs from Baximus. And Baximus, you were my first Coin Concede written down here, and Edelweiss, I see you have him as well. Go ahead, Edelweiss. Knock it out.
Well, yeah, I wanted to coin concede to Baximus because, we did that coaching session together, got him to his first time legend with the buff Paladin. So, yeah, coin concede to you. And, you very much didn't have to, but thank you for the 10 subs.
Yeah, thank you so much for the support, and we're really glad to have helped you on your legend journey. Enjoy your card back. Bodicus, who's your Coin Concede?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it earlier. Vic, I had a great coaching session with him on Tuesday and got him to an all-time high for him, which I believe is Diamond 2. So not sure if he's going to end up making the push for Legend this month or not, but we had a lot of really great games, had a lot of fun, won every single one of them, and yeah, our opponents didn't stand a chance. It was great. So hopefully he enjoyed it, because I definitely had a great time.
Yeah, good stuff. Coin Concedes, Maximus, you're great. Schwal, not only content with triple legend on Americas, standard, classic, and wild, he made a new player account, and he actually YouTube and recorded the experience over on the Asia server. And in 19 days, with the expense of $0 spent, made legend and entered at legend 118 on the Asia server. Was able to, within I think about a little over a week, was able to completely craft standard meta secret paladin with $0 spent. Now, should be noted, Schwal is an insanely good player and is also super wired in and knows what to do, and was definitely facing some MMR mismatches early on, but those equalize pretty quick, because when the system sees you winning at that rate in the new player pool, it does whatever it can to get you out of that pool. Your initial MMR gains are very significant. So entering at 118 means that MMR is very, very high. But no money spent, just over 2 weeks, entering near top 100 legend. Extremely impressive. Well done, Schwal. And you can go listen to Schwal along with Steven Sensei over in the Play for Tempo podcast we recommended. Also, you can find him in every Hearthstone Discord. Reksham, just another Coin Concede. Came up with the episode title last week. I enjoyed it. Want to make sure everyone knows it came from him. Coin Concede to Wayfair. We had a really great coaching session where the first game we played was Secret Rogue. Against an OTK Demon Hunter, we generated a Shenanigans. And I said, wouldn't it be great if that hit Il'gynoth? And then the next turn, they cast Skull of Gul'dan and then conceded the game. And we both laughed for a solid 5 minutes.
Amazing.
It was extremely enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Day 9 just put out a new video that the language is not safe around children. There's a bunch of swears. But it's a 6-minute dissertation on how to win in strategy games. And the title of the rant is Just Bleeping Kill Them. And I strongly recommend watching it, and I have never resonated with a piece of advice so much. He talks about it in StarCraft and in Magic, and basically says, people come into chat with all the what-if scenarios about really weird situations. And his first response initially was they shouldn't be able to do that, and then realized the actual answer is, can you just kill them? The answer is usually yes. And finally, Coin Concede to Edelweiss. Yeah. Last week, Edelweiss, you were, casually brave and personal, and I appreciated that. And,
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Coin Concede. To you. And to you, listeners, keep calm, and keep playing your one-mana convictions while you can. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Alright. Aw, thank you, Camel. You're a cutie. Stopping recording. Ugh. Thank you so much, Twitch chat. You're great. Hope you know you're great. Doge, we just finished. We're gonna bring the stream down now. But yes, thank you so much all for being here, and we'll see you next week. And in the YouTube chat, I guess, for the Masters Tour. We'll be in our Discord. Bye.